You're done tonight. Those 4 words left Derek's mouth at exactly 11:47 p.m., and the black SUV's headlights hit us 3 seconds later. The man stepping out of that vehicle had killed for less. I just didn't know it yet. My hands were shaking so hard the car keys slipped through my fingers and clattered against the asphalt. Derek's hand shot out and caught my wrist before I could bend down to grab them. His grip left marks. It always did. "Did you hear me, Catalina?" His voice was calm. That's what made it worse. When Derek got quiet, that's when I knew to be afraid. "I said we're done playing this game. You're moving in with me this weekend, or we're going to have a serious problem." The parking lot behind Velvet Rose was empty. I'd made sure to leave last again, hoping he'd get tired of waiting and go home. He never did. 2 years of this. 2 years of checking my phone every 5 minutes. 2 years of explaining away bruises to my coworkers. 2 years of telling myself tomorrow I'd leave. Tomorrow never came. "Derek, please." My voice cracked. I hated how small I sounded. "Can we just talk about this at home?" "Home?" He laughed, and it echoed off the brick walls surrounding us. "You mean that tiny apartment you think I don't have a key to? The one where you've been packing a suitcase under your bed for 3 months?" My blood went cold. He'd known. This whole time, he'd known I was planning to run. "Here's what's going to happen," he said, stepping closer. His cologne, the one I used to love, made my stomach turn. "You're going to get in my car. We're going to drive to your place. You're going to pack your things like a good girl, and by morning you'll be waking up in my bed where you belong. And if I say no?" The slap came fast. My cheek burned, and I tasted blood from where my teeth cut the inside of my mouth, but it was his next words that made my knees buckle. "Then I'll end you tonight, and they'll find you in a dumpster by morning. Another dead waitress, another tragic case of wrong place, wrong time." His fingers dug into my jaw, forcing me to look at him. "Nobody knows you're with me right now, Catalina. Nobody's coming to save you." That's when the headlights flooded the parking lot. High beams, blinding. The SUV rolled to a stop 15 feet away, and I heard the driver's door open. Derek's hand dropped from my face, and for the first time in 2 years, I saw fear flicker across his features. A man stepped into the light. Tall, broad shoulders, dark hair pulled back. He wore an expensive suit, the kind that cost more than 3 months of my rent, but it was his eyes that made my heart stop. I knew those eyes. Storm gray, sharp. The same eyes that used to watch me from across my father's study when I was 8 years old. The same eyes that held my hand at my mother's funeral while my father stood silent and cold in the corner. Little Cat. The nickname hit me like a physical blow. Nobody had called me that in 10 years. Not since the night I ran away from everything, from the blood, from the violence, from the name Volkov and everything it meant. "Rain?" The word barely made it past my lips. Derek's confusion was obvious. "Who the hell are you?" Rain didn't answer him, didn't even look at him. His focus stayed locked on me, and something in his expression made my chest tighten. It wasn't anger. It was worse. It was pain. 2 years, Rain said softly, taking a step forward. 2 years I've watched him put his hands on you. 2 years I've wanted to gut him in the street like the rat he is. My mind couldn't process what he was saying. "You've been watching me?" "Your father's orders." Another step. "He wanted you to come home on your own. He wanted you to choose it. But this?" His eyes finally shifted to Derek, and the temperature dropped. "This ends now." That's when I saw the other men. They emerged from the shadows like ghosts. 4 of them, all wearing the same dead-eyed expression I remembered from my childhood. The expression of men who'd seen too much death to be bothered by one more body. Derek's hand went to his pocket, but one of the men was faster. A gun pressed against Derek's temple before he could blink. "Don't," Rain said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "You'll only make it slower for yourself." "Catalina!" Derek's fear was naked now, desperate. Tell them I'm your boyfriend. Tell them to let me go." I stood there, frozen. My cheek still throbbed from his slap. My wrist still ached from his grip. And in my mind, I kept hearing his words on repeat. "I'll end you tonight." Rain pulled out his phone, pressed a button, and held it up. Derek's voice played from the speaker, crystal clear. "Then I'll end you tonight, and they'll find you in a dumpster by morning." "That's a death threat," Rain said calmly, pocketing the phone. Against Damien Volkov's daughter. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? The world tilted. Derek's face went white. Volkov? The serpent? You're his… Get him in the car, Rain ordered, and the men moved like a well-oiled machine. Derek struggled, shouting, but they gagged him with professional efficiency and dragged him toward a second vehicle I hadn't even noticed arriving. Rain turned back to me, and his expression softened in a way that made my throat tight. I'm sorry, little cat, he said quietly, but your father wants to see you, and this time, you don't get to run. The zip ties cut into Derek's wrists, but it was the man sitting in the corner, the one I'd spent 10 years trying to forget, who made me realize someone was actually going to die tonight. My father looked exactly the same. Damien Volkov sat in a leather chair like it was a throne, one leg crossed over the other, hands folded in his lap. Gray streaked his dark hair now, but his eyes were still that cold, calculating black that used to make grown men confess to crimes they didn't commit. The warehouse smelled like salt water and rust. We were somewhere near the docks. I could hear foghorns in the distance. Industrial lights hung from chains overhead, casting harsh shadows across the concrete floor. Derek knelt in the center of the room, hands bound behind his back, mouth still gagged. Blood trickled from his nose where one of Rain's men had hit him during the car ride. His eyes found mine, pleading. I couldn't look at him. Catalina! My father's voice was exactly as I remembered it, smooth, controlled, the kind of voice that never had to yell because everyone listened the first time. It's been a long time. Not long enough, I whispered. He smiled. Actually smiled, like I'd said something amusing. Still angry with me, I see. That's fair. I suppose running away at 18 and cutting all contact would suggest some lingering resentment. You killed people. My voice was stronger now, fueled by 10 years of buried rage. You killed them in our house. I watched you execute traitors, he finished calmly. Yes, that's what happens in my world, Catalina. Betrayal has consequences. Surely you understand that now, given your current situation. He gestured toward Derek, and my stomach twisted. Rain stood off to my left, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. He hadn't said a word since we arrived, just positioned himself between me and everyone else in the room, even my father. I didn't ask for this, I said. I didn't ask to be brought here. I didn't ask for protection? My father stood, and the movement was liquid grace. He crossed the warehouse floor, and I forced myself not to step back. You didn't ask for me to have men watching you for 10 years, making sure you were safe, making sure no one knew whose daughter you were? You let him hurt me. The accusation burst out before I could stop it. You watched Derek put his hands on me for 2 years. 2 years. Where was my protection then? Something flickered across my father's face. If I didn't know better, I'd call it pain. I was waiting, he said quietly, and for the first time, his voice carried emotion. Waiting for you to remember that you could come home, that you were never just some waitress, that you're a Volkov, and Volkovs don't beg for mercy. We take what's ours. He reached out and touched my face, his thumb brushing over my swollen cheek where Derek had struck me. His hand trembled. My father's hand never trembled. But you didn't come home, he continued. You suffered. You stayed with him. And every day Rain stood in my office and begged me to let him pull you out. Every single day. My eyes cut to Rain. He was staring at the floor, jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. Why didn't you? I asked. Because I wanted you to choose, my father said simply. I wanted you to choose this life, this family, on your own terms. Not because I dragged you back, not because I forced you. He paused. I wanted you to want to come home. The confession hung in the air between us, heavy and complicated and so completely messed up that I didn't know whether to scream or cry. That's not love, I said finally. That's control with a different name. Perhaps. My father dropped his hand and turned toward Derek. But what he did, that's not love either. That's possession, obsession, and it ends tonight. Derek made a muffled sound behind his gag, thrashing against his restraints. One of the guards stepped forward and pressed a hand to his shoulder, forcing him still. Please don't kill him, I heard myself say. Every man in the room turned to stare at me. Catalina, Rain started, but I cut him off. I mean it. Don't kill him. I didn't escape one monster just to become another one. If you do this, if you murder him because of me, then I'm just like you. Just like all of you. I looked at my father, and I'd rather die than become that. Silence, thick and suffocating. Then Derek started laughing. It was muffled by the gag, but unmistakable. His shoulders shook and tears streamed down his face, not from fear, but from hysterics. Rain moved fast, ripping the gag from Derek's mouth. Something funny about dying? Oh, this is perfect, Derek gasped between laughs. This is absolutely perfect. You have no idea. None of you have any idea. Shut up, Rain growled, but Derek kept going. She wants to save me. The target wants to save me. He looked directly at me, and there was something in his eyes I'd never seen before, something cold and calculated and completely foreign. Catalina, sweetheart, you really should have just moved in with me. Would have made everything so much easier. My blood went cold. What are you talking about? Derek's laughter died. His expression shifted, hardened, became someone I didn't recognize. Then he spoke 4 words that shattered my entire world. I'm a federal agent. The warehouse exploded into chaos. Rain's gun was out in a heartbeat, pressed against Derek's forehead. My father barked orders in Russian. Guards moved to positions I didn't understand. And me? I just stood there, numb, as Derek kept talking. Special Agent Derek Voss, FBI, 18 months deep cover, targeting the Volkov organization. He smiled at me, really smiled, and it was cruel. And you, Catalina Reeves, were my way in. Every kiss, every date, every I love you, all of it was part of the operation. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The floor felt like it was tilting beneath my feet. But here's the really fun part, Derek continued, and his voice dropped to something dark and vicious. 3 days ago, my handler gave me new orders. Know what they were? Nobody answered. We were all frozen. Kill the target. Stage it like domestic violence gone wrong. Use it to trigger a federal investigation that would dismantle your father's entire empire. His eyes locked on mine. So when I said, I'll end you tonight, I meant it, sweetheart. I was going to put a bullet in your head and walk away clean. The room spun. I felt Rain's hand on my elbow, steadying me, but I couldn't focus on anything except Derek's face. Every memory replayed at double speed. Every moment I'd thought was real, revealed as performance. Every time I'd defended him to myself, justified his behavior, told myself he loved me underneath it all. You're lying, I whispered. I'm really not. Derek tilted his head, considering me. Though I'll admit, somewhere around month 6, things got complicated. Turns out it's hard to spend that much time with someone and not develop feelings. Who knew? Rain's gun pressed harder against Derek's skull. Give me one reason not to end you right now. Because killing a federal agent brings consequences even the serpent can't handle, Derek suggested. Then his expression changed, became desperate. And because my handler, Deputy Director Foster, he didn't just order me to kill Catalina. When she refused to cooperate, when she wouldn't turn on her father, Foster went rogue. Rogue? My father stepped forward. Explain. The hit order wasn't official. It was personal. Foster's been running a side operation for years, using agents to eliminate problems that official channels can't touch, and when targets become non-cooperative, Derek's voice cracked, he eliminates them, all of them, including the agents who know too much. Why should we believe you? Rain demanded. Derek's laugh was hollow this time, broken. Because Foster has 5 other names on his current elimination list, and one of them? His eyes met mine, and for the first time, I saw real fear there. One of them is my sister, and she doesn't even know why she's about to die. Special Agent Derek Voss had 3 objectives: infiltrate, extract information, eliminate the target. He just never planned on Objective 3 being the woman he woke up next to every morning. I couldn't stop staring at him. This man, this stranger wearing Derek's face, kept talking, and every word felt like a knife twisting deeper into my chest. 18 months ago, I was assigned to Operation Serpent's Daughter, he said, and even his voice sounded different now, harder, clinical, like he was delivering a briefing instead of confessing to destroying my life. The mission was simple: get close to Catalina Reeves, daughter of Damian Volkov, gain her trust, extract information about her father's operations. When the time came, convince her to testify against him. My father hadn't moved. He stood 5 feet away, watching Derek with the same expression he probably wore when studying insects under a microscope. "How did you find her?" Rain asked. His gun never wavered from Derek's temple. "Coffee shop on 5th Avenue. She went there every Tuesday morning before her shift." Derek's eyes found mine. "You always ordered the same thing. Vanilla latte, extra foam, no sugar. You'd sit in the corner booth and read mystery novels. Bad ones." That detail, that specific, intimate detail, made something crack inside me. "The first approach was accidental," he continued. "Bumped into you, spilled your coffee, apologized profusely, bought you a replacement and a croissant. You smiled at me like I'd saved your life instead of ruining your shirt." I remembered that day. Remembered thinking how charming he was, how genuine his embarrassment seemed, how his laugh made my stomach flutter. All of it. Every single moment. Scripted. The relationship progressed according to plan, Derek said, and he was back to that clinical tone. First date within a week, physical intimacy within a month, moved in together, or rather, I pressured you to, within 6 months. Standard manipulation tactics, isolation, dependency, gradual escalation of control. "You hit her," Rain growled. "That wasn't tactics, that was part of the strategy," Derek interrupted. "Break her down, make her desperate. Desperate people make mistakes. Desperate people reach out to family they've been avoiding for 10 years. The warehouse was so quiet I could hear my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. "But she didn't break," my father observed, and there was something almost proud in his voice. "She never called. Never came home. Never gave you what you wanted." "No," Derek agreed. "She didn't, which is when Deputy Director Foster decided she was more valuable as a corpse than a witness." "Explain, Foster," my father commanded. Derek shifted, and the zip ties dug deeper into his wrists. Blood dripped from where the plastic cut his skin. "Benjamin Foster, 26 years with the Bureau, Deputy Director of Criminal Investigations. On paper, he's a decorated agent who's taken down 3 major organized crime families." "And off paper?" Rain asked. "Off paper, he's running a kill squad." Derek's voice dropped. "For the last 8 years, Foster's been using deep cover agents to eliminate targets the Bureau can't officially touch. Foreign operatives, corrupt politicians, witnesses who know too much. He calls it necessary corrections." "That's not law enforcement," I heard myself say. "That's assassination." "Congratulations, you're smarter than half the Bureau." Derek's bitter laugh made me flinch. "Foster recruits agents who are good at going deep, people who can disappear into a role, people who don't ask too many questions. And when those agents become liabilities, when they know too much, when they develop morals, when they refuse orders, he eliminates them," my father finished. "3 days ago, I was in Foster's office," Derek said. "He told me Operation Serpent's daughter was a failure. Told me Catalina was too emotionally stable, too independent, too much like her father to be broken. Said we needed a new approach." He paused, and his next words came out strangled. "He gave me a kill. Order? Make it look like domestic violence. Sloppy boyfriend loses his temper. Happens every day in America." The floor beneath my feet felt unstable. My legs wanted to give out, but I wouldn't let them. Wouldn't give Derek, or whoever he really was, the satisfaction of seeing me collapse. "Why are you telling us this?" Rain demanded. "You think confessing makes you less guilty? You spent 2 years destroying her." "I'm telling you because Foster didn't just order me to kill Catalina." Derek's composure cracked, and suddenly he looked young, scared, human. "He has 5 other active termination orders, 5 other people on his list, and one of them is my sister." Silence crashed over the warehouse like a wave. "Her name is Jennifer Voss," Derek continued, words tumbling out faster now. "She's 23, graduate student at Columbia, studying forensic psychology. She doesn't know what I do, doesn't know I'm FBI. She thinks I'm an accountant." His voice broke. "And Foster put her on the list because she's leverage, because if I ever thought about talking, about exposing him, he'd kill her first just to prove he could." "Why is she a target now?" my father asked, and his tone was different. Calculating. I knew that tone. It meant he was already 3 steps ahead. Already planning. Because I hesitated, Derek said quietly. 3 nights ago, I had the perfect opportunity. Catalina was vulnerable, upset, alone with me. I could have made it quick, made it clean, but He stopped, swallowed hard. I couldn't do it. And when I reported back that I needed more time, Foster knew. He knew I'd compromised the mission. So he activated a dead man's switch, Rain said. Your sister dies if you don't complete the hit. Not just my sister. Derek looked up, and there were tears on his face now. Real ones. Foster has 6 agents in the field, all of us on operations just like this one. All of us with family members he's researched, documented, threatened. The others on the list, they're the families of agents who started asking questions. Who wanted out? My father pulled out his phone, typed something, then looked at one of his men. Verify this. I want names, addresses, current locations of every person Foster's marked for termination. I want it in 15 minutes. The guard nodded and disappeared into the shadows. You still haven't explained the most important part, I said, and my voice sounded hollow, distant, like it belonged to someone else. Which parts were real? Derek's eyes met mine, and for a moment, just a moment, I saw the man I thought I'd loved. The first 3 months, all strategy, he said quietly. Every word, every gesture, every romantic gesture, calculated. I had a playbook, I followed it. He paused. But then you did something I didn't expect. What? You saw me. His voice cracked. Not the cover story, not the charming boyfriend. You saw the parts of me I didn't even know were still there. You asked about my childhood, my dreams, the things that scared me, and He stopped, shook his head. I started answering honestly. Started forgetting which parts were Derek Voss, the cover identity, and which parts were just me. When? The word came out as a whisper. Month 6. You remember that night we stayed up until 3 a.m. talking about whether people can really change? You said everyone has the capacity for redemption if they choose it. He smiled, but it was broken. That was the first night I realized I was falling in love with my target. The first night I knew I was completely screwed. Rain's finger tightened on the trigger. You don't get to claim love after what you did. I'm not claiming anything, Derek interrupted. I'm just answering her question. She asked which parts were real. The answer is, I don't know anymore. Somewhere between the mission and the man, I lost track of where the lie ended and the truth began. My father's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. He's not lying about the list. I have 5 confirmed targets. 3 are children. 1 is an 80-year-old mother. 1 is Jennifer Voss, currently residing at an apartment in Manhattan. Foster has surveillance on all of them. Then we have a problem, Derek said, because He glanced at the wall clock. 22 hours. If Foster doesn't receive confirmation that I've completed my mission, his dead man's switch activates. Files get released to media outlets. Evidence of your entire operation goes public, and 6 families die to cover his tracks. What kind of evidence? Rain asked. Everything. Financial records, property holdings, names of associates, police on your payroll, judges you've bought, politicians you own. Derek's smile was grim. Foster's been building this case for 8 years. He's got enough to put your father away for 5 consecutive life sentences. Enough to dismantle the entire Volkov organization in one move. My father didn't react, didn't even blink, just stared at Derek like he was a particularly interesting puzzle. So, let me understand the situation, he said slowly. You were sent to destroy my daughter. You failed because you caught feelings. Your handler marked you for termination, along with your sister and 4 other innocent families, and now you have less than 24 hours before evidence surfaces that could end everything I've built. That's the situation, Derek confirmed. And you're telling us this because I'm choosing redemption, Derek said, and he was looking at me now. Only me. Because Catalina was right that night. People can change if they choose it, and I'm choosing to be the person she believed I could be instead of the person Foster made me. The warehouse door burst open. The guard my father had sent rushed back in, tablet in hand. Sir, we've confirmed Foster's location. He's at a federal building in downtown. Heavy security, but there's something else. Show me, my father commanded. The guard held up the tablet. On the screen was a video feed of a man in a federal building typing at a computer. As we watched, he pulled up a file directory. The names on screen made my blood run cold. Operation Clean Slate Termination Orders. Active time to execution 21:47:33. Below the timer was a list of names: Jennifer Voss, Maria Chen, age 7, Robert Patterson, age 82, and 3 others I didn't recognize. If Foster activates that, the guard said quietly, 6 people die, and the Volkov organization becomes headline news by morning. My father looked at Derek, then at me, then at Rain. Catalina, he said calmly, what do you want me to do? Everyone turned to stare at me. The man who'd manipulated me for 2 years, the father I'd abandoned for 10, the childhood protector who'd watched me suffer from the shadows, all of them waiting for my decision. And I realized, for the first time in my life, I held the power, not them. Me. We stopped Foster, I said. My voice was steady, strong. We save those families. We expose his operation. I looked at Derek. And then you and I are done. Forever. I don't care if parts of it were real. I don't care if you have feelings. You used me, you lied to me, and you were going to kill me. That doesn't get forgiven just because you changed your mind. Derek nodded slowly. Fair enough. I turned to my father. But we don't kill him. We're not murderers, no matter what you've done in the past. We use him to stop Foster, save those families, and then he goes into whatever witness protection program keeps him away from me. And if he betrays us? Rain asked. Then you can shoot him, I said flatly, but not before we fix the mess he created. My father smiled. Actually smiled, and it was terrifying because I saw pride in it. You really are my daughter, he said softly. Then his phone rang. Unknown number. He answered it on speaker. Volkov. A man's voice, smooth and confident. This is Deputy Director Benjamin Foster. I believe you have something that belongs to me. Are you enjoying the story? Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from and your predictions on what happens next. My father didn't answer immediately. He just stood there, phone in hand, letting the silence stretch until even I felt uncomfortable. It was a power move, one I'd seen him use 100 times as a child. Make them wait, make them wonder, make them show their cards first. Foster, he finally said, and his voice was ice. I'm surprised you'd call directly. That seems careless for a man in your position. Desperate times, Foster replied, and I could hear the smile in his voice. My agent missed his check-in. That's unusual. Agent Voss is nothing if not punctual. Derek's face had gone pale. Rain kept the gun pressed against his head, but I saw his finger ease off the trigger, slightly. He's indisposed at the moment, my father said calmly. We're having a very interesting conversation about federal overreach and the limits of law enforcement authority. Foster laughed. Actually laughed, and it made my skin crawl. I see. Well, in that case, let me be direct. You have 21 hours before my insurance policy activates. 21 hours before every major news outlet in America receives documentation of your entire criminal enterprise. Financial crimes, murder, racketeering. Corruption charges that will bury you so deep you'll die in a hole. Assuming that evidence is legitimate, my father countered. Oh, it's legitimate. 8 years of surveillance, wire transfers, recorded conversations, photographs, video footage. I've built a case that would make prosecutors weep with joy. Foster paused. But here's the thing, Volkov. I don't actually want to destroy you. That caught everyone off guard. Explain, my father said. You're useful. Your organization moves products, information, money. You have connections I could never officially access. Politicians you own, police you control, routes into countries where the Bureau has limited reach. Foster's tone shifted, became businesslike. What I want is a partnership. You work for me, quietly, unofficially, and your operation continues. You refuse, and I burn everything you've built to the ground. While killing 6 innocent people, I said, and I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice. Ah, the daughter speaks. Foster sounded delighted. Agent Voss told me you had spirit, said breaking you was proving difficult. I should have listened more carefully. He paused. Those 6 people are collateral damage, Miss Reeves. Acceptable losses in a larger operation. Surely you understand. Your father's made similar calculations. I looked at my father. His expression was unreadable. but something flickered in his eyes. Something that might have been shame. "Here's my counteroffer," my father said. "You release Agent Voss from service. You delete your so-called evidence. You forget my daughter exists. And in exchange, I don't hunt down every person you've ever loved and show you what real collateral damage looks like." The silence on the other end lasted 3 seconds. Then Foster laughed again. Longer this time. "You can't threaten me, Volkov. I'm a deputy director of the FBI. I have resources you can't imagine, protection you can't penetrate, and most importantly," his voice hardened, "I have a dead man's switch that doesn't care about your threats. Kill me, and the files release automatically. Come after my family, and the files release. Miss a single one of my daily check-ins, and the files release. You want to save your empire? You play by my rules." Derek was shaking his head, mouthing something. I moved closer, trying to read his lips. "Bluffing," he whispered. "Server farm, upstate." My father caught it too. His eyes narrowed slightly, the only indication he'd heard. "I'll need time to consider," my father said smoothly. "This is a significant decision." "You have 21 hours, Foster replied. "I suggest you spend them wisely, and Volkov, don't try anything creative. I have eyes everywhere, including in that warehouse you're currently standing in." The line went dead. Everyone moved at once. Rain grabbed Derek and hauled him to his feet. My father's guards swept the building, searching for surveillance equipment. I stood frozen, trying to process what had just happened. "He's lying about the cameras," one of the guards reported. "This building's been clean for years. No way he's watching us." "Then how did he know where we were?" I asked. "He didn't," Rain said. "It was a guess, a good one, based on known Volkov properties, but a guess." He looked at Derek. "Talk. What's this about a server farm?" Derek was breathing hard, panic written across his face. "Foster's dead man's switch. It's not automated. It can't be. Too risky. He has the files stored at a private server farm upstate. Remote location, minimal staff. He built it specifically for operations like this." "How do you know?" my father demanded. "Because 3 months ago he took me there, showed me the setup, said it was where all his insurance policies lived." Derek's words came faster now, desperate. "He wanted me to understand what would happen if I betrayed him, wanted me to see how thorough he was." "Location?" Rain ordered. "Greene County, near the Catskills. Old industrial complex disguised as a data backup facility." Derek rattled off coordinates. "But it's heavily guarded. Private security, armed response team. You can't just walk in there." "We're not walking," my father said, already pulling out his phone. "We're taking what's ours." "Wait." I stepped forward, and everyone turned to look at me. "If we attack that facility, Foster knows immediately. He'll trigger the backup. We need a different approach." "What are you suggesting?" my father asked. I looked at Derek, looked at the man who'd spent 2 years manipulating me, lying to me, planning to kill me. The man who claimed somewhere in all that deception, he'd found something real. "We use what Foster gave us," I said slowly, the plan forming as I spoke. "He thinks Derek's compromised, but doesn't know how much. He thinks we're scared of his evidence. He thinks we'll either submit or panic." I met my father's eyes. "We do neither. We play along. Derek contacts Foster, says he escaped, says he's still loyal. And while Foster's focused on that, we hit the server farm." "He'll never believe Agent Voss is still loyal," Rain objected, "not after missing his check-in." "He will if the story's good enough," Derek interrupted, and I saw his mind working. "If I tell him you tortured me for information, that I held out, that I escaped during a transfer. Foster trained me. He knows I can handle interrogation. He'll believe I got away if I sell it right." "And if you're lying?" Rain asked. "If this is all a setup to get Foster what he wants?" Derek looked at me. Really looked at me, and for a moment, I saw past the agent and the abuser and the liar. Saw something raw and honest and terrified. "Then Jennifer dies," he said quietly. "And I'll have killed her as surely as if I pulled the trigger myself. I'm a lot of things, but I won't do that. I can't." My father studied Derek for a long moment. Then he turned to one of his guards. "Get him cleaned up. Make the bruises look worse. We need this to be convincing. And someone get me blueprints of that server facility. I want to know every entrance, every guard position, every security measure." The warehouse exploded into organized chaos. Guards moved with military precision. Phones rang. Equipment appeared from hidden storage. Rain grabbed my arm gently, pulled me aside. Catalina, are you sure about this? No, I admitted. But what choice do we have? 6 people die if we do nothing. And if there's even a chance Derek's telling the truth about his sister. That's not what I'm asking. Rain's gray eyes searched mine. Are you okay? Being around him? After everything? And that's when it hit me. The full weight of the last 2 hours. Derek's confession. Foster's threats. My father's sudden reappearance in my life. The fact that the man I thought I loved had been a federal agent planning my murder. My hands started shaking. Then my legs. Then everything. Rain caught me before I fell, pulled me against his chest, and let me break apart. Let me sob into his expensive suit while my father coordinated an assault on a federal facility, and my ex-boyfriend, federal agent would-be killer, got patched up for the performance of his life. I've got you, little cat. Rain whispered into my hair. I've always got you. And the terrible thing? The absolutely devastating thing? I believed him. 24 hours to stop a digital bomb, and the only person who knew Foster's system was the man who'd spent 2 years lying to my heart. The car smelled like leather, gunpowder, and the cologne Rain wore. Something expensive I couldn't name. I was driving because my father insisted I needed something to do with my hands. Something to control. He was right, but I hated that he knew me well enough to understand that. Derek sat in the passenger seat, cleaned up but still showing the bruises Rain's men had enhanced for authenticity. His phone sat in his lap, waiting for the call he'd make to Foster in exactly 7 minutes. Rain occupied the back seat, and I could feel his stare burning into the side of my head. Protective, possessive, and something else I wasn't ready to examine. Take Route 87 north, Derek said, studying the GPS. We're about 90 minutes out. I merged onto the highway without responding. We'd been driving for 40 minutes, and I hadn't spoken directly to Derek once. Couldn't. Every time I looked at him, my mind split between the man I thought I knew and the stranger sitting next to me. You're going to need to talk to me eventually, Derek said quietly. We're about to run an operation together. That requires communication. I'll communicate when it's necessary, I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. Right now, it's not. Catalina, don't. The word came out sharp. Don't use my name like we're friends, like you didn't spend 2 years building a relationship designed to destroy me. Silence filled the car, thick and uncomfortable. Fair enough, Derek said finally. Rain leaned forward, and I saw him in the rearview mirror. Tell me about Foster's security protocols. What are we walking into? Derek shifted, grateful for the tactical discussion. The server farm is disguised as a legitimate data backup facility. 8 guards on rotation. 3 at the perimeter, 2 monitoring security feeds, 3 on patrol inside. They're all former military. Foster doesn't hire amateurs. Armed? Rain asked. Heavily. And they have authorization to use lethal force against intruders. Derek paused. But the real security is the digital system. Biometric access at every checkpoint, facial recognition, fingerprint scanners. Even if you get past the guards, you can't access the server room without authorized credentials. Which you have, I said. Which I had 3 months ago, Derek corrected. Foster changes access codes weekly. By now, my credentials are probably flagged in the system. The moment I try to use them, alarms trigger. Then, how do we get in? Rain demanded. We don't break in, Derek said. We walk in. Foster thinks I escaped. When I call him, I'll say I stole a car. I'm heading to the facility to access secure communications equipment. He'll authorize my entry remotely because he needs to debrief me. And when we're inside, I asked, that's where it gets complicated. Of course it did. Derek pulled out a hand-drawn map from his pocket. The servers are in a climate-controlled room on the 2nd floor. 2 access points. Main entrance requires 3 separate authentications. Back entrance is for emergency maintenance. Still secured, but only 2 authentications. We use the back entrance, Rain said. Can't. It's alarmed. Open that door without proper authorization, and the whole building locks down. Steel shutters, gas deployment, the works. Derek tapped the map. We have to go through the main entrance, which means we need Foster to believe I'm alone and cooperative long enough to get past security. I glanced at him. And then? Then you and Rain, who will have entered separately through the loading dock, which Foster doesn't know about because it's not on official blueprints, meet me at the server room. We have approximately 4 minutes from when I authenticate at the main entrance before Foster realizes something's wrong. 4 minutes to what? Rain asked. Delete the files? Can't delete them. They're backed up in 3 separate locations. We need to access Foster's control terminal and manually disable the dead man's switch. It requires his personal encryption key. Which we don't have, I said. Which I know how to bypass, Derek corrected. Foster showed me the back door, another insurance policy. He wanted his agents to know that if something happened to him, we could access the system and protect ourselves. That seems remarkably stupid for someone running a kill squad, Rain observed. It's ego, Derek replied. Foster believes he's untouchable, that no one would dare move against him. The back door exists because he wants loyalty, not fear. Wants his agents to know they're protected even if he dies. My phone buzzed. Text from my father. Team in position. Loading dock secured. You have green light. It's time, I said. Derek picked up his phone, and I watched his hands tremble slightly as he dialed. The call connected on the second ring. Voss? Foster's voice came through the car speakers. Derek had put it on speaker without asking. You're late. I was busy being tortured, Derek said, and his voice was different, harder. The federal agent voice, not the boyfriend voice. Volkov's men aren't gentle. Where are you? Somewhere on Route 87. I stole a car after they transferred me between locations. They thought I was broken. They were wrong. Derek paused. Sir, I need to get to a secure location. They know about Operation Serpent's Daughter. They know about the others. We need to move up the timeline. Another pause. Longer this time. I held my breath. What did you tell them? Foster asked, and his voice carried a warning. Nothing. They showed me photos of Jennifer. Said they'd kill her if I didn't talk. I held out. Derek's performance was flawless. I almost believed him myself. But sir, they have resources. They'll find her if we don't act. I need to access secure comms. Need to coordinate protection. What's your location? Derek rattled off coordinates that put him 30 minutes from the server farm. I'm heading to the facility. Can you authorize my entry? My credentials might be flagged after the missed check-in. The silence stretched so long I thought Foster had seen through the lie. Then, authorized. Get to the facility. Access point 3. I'll have a team waiting to debrief you. Foster's voice softened slightly. And Voss? Good work. Not many men could withstand Volkov's interrogation methods. I'm impressed. Thank you, sir. The call ended. Derek exhaled slowly, and I realized he'd been holding his breath too. He bought it, Rain said, and he sounded surprised. For now, Derek replied. But we have maybe 20 minutes before he starts asking questions that don't have good answers. Once I'm inside and he realizes I'm not alone. Then we move fast, I interrupted, pressing harder on the accelerator. The car jumped forward, eating up highway. How long to bypass the encryption? If everything goes perfectly, 3 minutes. And if it doesn't? Derek met my eyes, and for once I saw no deception there, just fear. Then Foster triggers the switch manually. 6 people die, and your father's empire collapses by morning. Oh, and we probably get shot by his security team. He paused. So, let's make sure everything goes perfectly. We drove in silence for 10 more minutes. The facility appeared on the horizon, a nondescript industrial complex that could have been anything. Storage, manufacturing. Definitely not a secret server farmhousing evidence to destroy a mafia organization and authorize 6 murders. I pulled off the highway onto a service road. A quarter mile ahead, I could see the facility's perimeter fence. Loading dock is on the east side, Derek said. Your father's team should already be in position. They'll create a distraction at the main gate exactly 4 minutes after I enter. That's your window. Rain checked his weapon. A sleek black pistol I recognized from my childhood. My father's signature gun. And if this is a trap? Then I die too, Derek said simply. Foster doesn't forgive betrayal. If this goes wrong, he'll kill me just for being stupid enough to think I could play both sides. I pulled the car to a stop behind a cluster of trees with sight lines to the facility, turned off the engine, looked at Derek. Which parts were real? I asked again, because I needed to know. Before we walked into a federal facility to commit what was probably a dozen felonies, before I trusted this man with my life and my father's empire. I needed to know. Derek was quiet for a long moment. The first kiss was assignment, he said finally. The second was confusion. But the third? He met my eyes. The third was me realizing I was in trouble, that somewhere between the cover story and the mission parameters, I'd started caring about making you smile more than making you talk. That's not an answer, I said. It's the only answer I have. His voice dropped. I don't know which parts were real, Catalina. I don't know where Derek Voss, the federal agent, ends, and whoever I really am begins. What I know is this. When Foster gave me the kill order, I couldn't do it. When he threatened Jennifer, I chose protecting her over completing the mission. And right now, sitting in this car, about to betray everything I've worked toward for 8 years? He paused. I'm choosing you. Maybe that's not real. Maybe it's just guilt. But it's what I've got. Rain made a disgusted sound from the back seat. You don't get to play the redemption card after... I know, Derek interrupted. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, don't deserve a second chance, don't deserve anything except a bullet and an unmarked grave. I know that. He looked at me. But I'm asking anyway. Not for me, for Jennifer, for those other families, for the chance to do one right thing after 2 years of wrong ones. I wanted to hate him, wanted to feel nothing but rage and betrayal. But looking at him, really looking at him, I saw something I recognized. I saw someone trying to climb out of a hole they'd dug themselves, someone trying to be better than their worst choices. I saw myself at 18, running from my father's world. We do this, I said quietly. We save those families, we stop Foster, and then you disappear. You go into whatever program keeps you away from me, and you never contact me again. Understand? Derek nodded. Understood. I turned to Rain. You ready? He leaned forward, and his hand touched my shoulder. Warm, steady, real. I've been ready since I was 16 years old, and you snuck out of your father's house, he said quietly. Been ready to follow you anywhere? Even into a federal facility to commit crimes that will make your father proud. Despite everything, I almost smiled. Let's go save some lives, I said. Derek got out of the car first, straightening his clothes, composing his face into the expression of a man who'd barely escaped capture. He looked at me one more time through the window. For what it's worth, he said. I'm sorry. For all of it. Then he walked toward the facility's main entrance, and I watched him go. This man who'd been my everything and my nothing, my love and my lie, my almost killer and my current ally. Rain climbed into the front seat beside me. You don't have to forgive him, you know, even if he helps. I know, I said, and you don't have to be okay with any of this. I know that too. Rain's hand found mine, and his fingers intertwined with my fingers. I meant what I said in the warehouse. I've got you, always have, always will. I squeezed his hand, and we sat there watching Derek approach the facility's gate, watching him authenticate, watching the guards nod and wave him through. 3 minutes, Rain said, checking his watch. Then we move. My phone buzzed. My father. In position. On your signal. I typed back. Signal in 3 minutes. Then I looked at Rain, this man who'd protected me from shadows, who'd watched me suffer rather than cage me, who'd waited 10 years for me to choose him instead of demanding I do it. After this is over, I said quietly, we need to talk. About what? He asked, but his eyes said he already knew. About why you never told me you were in love with me. Rain was silent for a moment. Then, because you needed to be free, not rescued, not owned, free. And love that comes with conditions isn't love, it's just another cage. My throat tightened. And now? Now you're about to break into a federal facility to save 6 strangers and destroy a corrupt operation. Now you've faced your father and your abuser and your past. He smiled slightly. Now, you're not running from anything. You're running towards something. And that makes all the difference. 2 minutes, I said, checking the time. We got out of the car. Rain checked his weapon one more time, then handed me a smaller pistol from his ankle holster. You remember how to use this? He asked. I took it, checked the magazine, chambered around. Father made sure I knew before I could read. Good. We moved through the shadows toward the east side of the facility. The loading dock was exactly where Derek said it would be. A roll-up door partially concealed by overgrown vegetation. My father's men had already disabled the external cameras. One of them nodded as we approached. "Boss says you have 4 minutes once the distraction starts," the guard whispered. "Make them count." My phone buzzed. "Derek, inside, moving to server room. Foster wants video call in 90 seconds. I texted my father. Now." 30 seconds later, an explosion rocked the front gate. Not huge, carefully calculated to look like a car accident, but loud enough to pull guards from their positions. The loading dock door lifted silently. Someone had already bypassed the lock. Rain and I slipped inside. The facility was exactly as Derek described. Sterile corridors, industrial lighting, the hum of climate control systems. We moved fast, following the path Derek had mapped. Left corridor, stairwell, second floor, right turn. We could hear voices ahead. Guards responding to the front gate incident, leaving their posts. Rain held up a fist. We stopped, waited. The voices faded. "Go," he whispered. We reached the server room door. Through the small window, I could see Derek standing at a terminal, fingers flying across the keyboard. His phone was propped up on the desk, video call with Foster. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I could see Foster's face on the screen, suspicious, asking questions. Derek's hands never stopped moving on the keyboard. Rain tried the door. Locked. He pulled out a small device, something that looked like it belonged in a spy movie, and attached it to the card reader. 30 seconds, he murmured. Through the window, I watched Derek's face, watched him lie to his handler while simultaneously betraying him, watched him play both sides of a game where the stakes were 6 lives and my father's empire. Then I saw it. The moment Foster's expression changed, the moment he realized something was wrong. Derek saw it too. His eyes flicked to the door, to us, and I saw panic flash across his face. The card reader beeped. Green light. Rain threw the door open. Foster's voice boomed through Derek's phone. "Your location right now, Agent Voss. Don't lie to me." "Got it," Derek shouted, hitting a final key. "Dead man's switch disabled. Files are locked behind new encryption. He can't trigger anything." Alarms shrieked to life. Red lights flooded the corridors. "Lockdown protocol initiated," a robotic voice announced. "All exits sealed. Security teams en route." "What did you do?" Foster's voice was ice. "What did you do?" Derek grabbed his phone, held it up so Foster could see all of us. "I chose the right side. Finally." Foster's face contorted with rage. "You're dead. All of you. I'll bury you so deep." "No," I said, stepping into frame. "You won't. Because right now, my father is sending copies of your kill list to every major news outlet in America, along with evidence of your necessary corrections program, along with testimony from Agent Voss and 4 other agents you tried to murder." I smiled. "You're done, Director Foster, and you did it to yourself." The video call cut out. "We need to move," Rain said. "Now." The sound of boots thundered in the corridor. Multiple teams, closing fast. Derek pulled a USB drive from the terminal. "Everything's on here. Files, evidence, access codes to Foster's other operations. It's enough to—" "Later," I interrupted. "How do we get out?" "We don't." Derek's face was grim. "Not the way we came in. The lockdown sealed everything, but there's a maintenance tunnel in the sub-basement. Leads to an exit half a mile from the building." "Then we go down," Rain said. We ran. Through corridors that twisted like a maze, down stairwells that seemed to go on forever. Behind us, I could hear guards shouting, coordinating, closing the net. Rain fired twice, warning shots that scattered a patrol ahead of us. We kept moving. The sub-basement was dark, lit only by emergency lights. Industrial pipes ran along the ceiling. The air smelled like oil and concrete. "There," Derek pointed. "That access panel." Rain was there first, prying it open with a crowbar he'd grabbed from somewhere. The tunnel beyond was narrow, dark, and our only option. "Ladies first," Rain said, and despite everything, I heard humor in his voice. I climbed through. Derek followed. Rain came last, pulling the panel shut behind us just as guards burst into the sub-basement. We crawled through darkness, through water that soaked through my clothes, through spaces so tight I had to turn sideways to fit through. Behind us, I heard guards at the access panel, heard them trying to pry it open. "Faster," Derek urged. Light appeared ahead, dim but real. The exit. We emerged into a drainage ditch half a mile from the facility. Dawn was breaking. I hadn't even realized we'd been inside all night. We were covered in grime, soaking wet, and probably wanted by federal authorities. My father's car was waiting exactly where it should be. We climbed in, and the driver, one of my father's most trusted men, hit the gas before we even closed the doors. "Boss wants you at the safe house," he said. "Said to tell you Foster's been arrested. His kill squad's being rounded up. The families are safe." I leaned back against the seat, closed my eyes, and felt something inside me finally release. We'd done it. 6 strangers were alive because we'd chosen to act. Foster's corruption was exposed, and I was still breathing. Derek sat across from me, USB drive clutched in his hand. "Jennifer?" "Safe," the driver confirmed. "Volkov had her picked up 3 hours ago. She's confused as hell, but she's safe." Derek's head dropped. His shoulders shook, and I realized he was crying. Rain's hand found mine again, squeezed, and I squeezed back. "Where are we going?" I asked quietly. "Somewhere you can rest," Rain said. "Somewhere safe. Somewhere you can decide what comes next." What came next? My father's world. Rain's devotion. Derek's betrayal and attempted redemption. My own choices about who I wanted to be. All of it waiting. All of it demanding answers I didn't have yet. But right now, in this moment, driving away from a federal facility we just robbed, covered in drainage water and triumph, I felt something I hadn't felt in 2 years. I felt free. "Take me home," I said. And I didn't mean the apartment I'd been living in. Didn't mean my father's mansion. Didn't mean anywhere I'd been before. I meant wherever came next. Whatever I chose to build. Whoever I decided to become. The car drove into the sunrise, and I watched the light break over the horizon. Everything had changed. And somehow, I was ready for it. Damien Volkov built an empire on fear, but his daughter just gambled it all on something he'd forgotten existed: trust. The safe house was a penthouse overlooking the city. Glass walls, modern furniture, the kind of place that screamed money without saying a word. My father stood at the window, phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Russian, negotiating, threatening, doing what he did best. I sat on a leather couch that probably cost more than my entire year's salary at Velvet Rose, still wearing clothes that smelled like drainage water and felonies. Rain had disappeared into another room to coordinate with my father's security team. Derek sat across from me, that USB drive still clutched in his hand like a lifeline. We hadn't spoken since the car ride. Hadn't needed to. The silence said everything. My father ended his call and turned to face us. His expression was unreadable, the same mask I remembered from childhood, but his eyes gave him away. They always did, if you knew how to look. He was proud. "Foster's been arrested," my father said, moving to the bar and pouring 3 glasses of whiskey. He handed one to me, one to Derek, kept the third. "Federal agents raided his office 2 hours ago. Found evidence of 17 unauthorized kill orders spanning 6 years. The director herself is calling it the biggest corruption scandal in bureau history." Derek's hand trembled as he took the glass. "Jennifer? Your sister is having breakfast at a secured location with 3 of my best men pretending to be federal marshals." My father's lips quirked. "She thinks she's in witness protection because of your work. Let her keep thinking that." "Thank you," Derek whispered. "Don't thank me. Thank Catalina." My father looked at me. "She's the one who insisted we save you. Personally, I would have put a bullet in your head the moment you admitted who you were." "I know," Derek said. "Do you?" My father stepped closer. "Do you understand what you did to my daughter? Not the mission, not the federal investigation. I'm talking about the nights she cried herself to sleep because she thought she'd found someone who loved her. The mornings she covered bruises with makeup. The years of her life you stole." Derek's face crumbled. "I understand." "No, you don't." My father's voice was ice. "But you will, because I'm going to make you a deal, Agent Voss. And you're going to take it, because refusing means I let my men finish what they started in that warehouse." The temperature in the room dropped. "Father," I started, but he held up a hand. "You wanted mercy," he said to me. "I'm giving it. But mercy in my world comes with terms." He turned back to Derek. "Here's your deal. You testify against Foster. You provide every piece of evidence you have about his operation. You help dismantle the corruption network you were part of. And when it's done, you disappear. Witness protection, Derek said. No. My father smiled, and it was terrifying. Something better. I'm going to give you a new life, new identity, new job, enough money to start over somewhere far from here. Somewhere you can look at yourself in the mirror and maybe, eventually, forgive yourself for what you did. Derek blinked. Why would you? Because my daughter asked me to show mercy. And despite what you might think, I've never been able to deny her anything that wouldn't get her killed. My father paused. But in exchange, you never contact Catalina again. You don't check on her. You don't send messages through intermediaries. You don't even think her name too loudly, because I have people who can sense that sort of thing. She exists in a world you're no longer part of. Understand? Yes, Derek said immediately. Say it. I'll never contact Catalina again. Never try to find her. Never, his voice cracked, never be part of her life. My father nodded. Good. Now give me that USB drive and get out of my sight. Someone will be here in 20 minutes to take you to a debriefing facility. Make sure your testimony is thorough, Agent Voss. Because if Foster's lawyers find a single hole in your story, if he walks free because you held something back, I'll consider our deal void. Derek stood, crossed to my father, and handed over the USB drive. Then he turned to me. I need to say something, he said, and then I'll go. I should have told him no, should have let him leave without another word. But some part of me, the part that had loved him before I knew it was a lie, needed to hear it. Make it quick, I said. Derek took a breath. I can't undo the lie. Can't give you back the 2 years I stole. Can't erase the bruises or the fear or the nights you spent planning to escape me. He paused. But the man who fell in love with you? He was real. Maybe he was built on a foundation of lies. Maybe he never should have existed. But he did. And he wants you to know that you deserve better than either version of me. You deserve someone who sees you without an agenda. Someone who protects you without owning you. Someone who loves you honestly from the start. Tears burned my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Are you done? Almost. Derek's smile was sad. 6 months from now, you're going to wake up and realize a whole day has passed without thinking about me. A year from now, you'll struggle to remember my face. 5 years from now, I'll be a story you tell about a chapter of your life that made you stronger. He paused. I hope you get there fast, Catalina. I really do. Then he walked out. The door closed behind him, and something inside me released. Not forgiveness, not quite, but closure. The kind that comes when a chapter ends and you realize you're ready for the next one. My father sat down beside me, didn't touch me, just sat there, present in a way he'd never been when I was younger. You handled that well, he said quietly. I learned from the best, I replied. You taught me how to negotiate from a position of strength, even when I'm falling apart. I taught you a lot of things, most of them terrible. He paused. I owe you an apology. I turned to stare at him. Damien Volkov didn't apologize. Ever. It was like watching a mountain decide to move. For what? I asked. For letting you suffer. For watching that man hurt you and doing nothing. His voice was rough. You were right in the warehouse. I told myself I was giving you freedom to choose. But really, I was punishing you for leaving, for running from this life. And I used your pain to prove a point. What point? The question came out as a whisper. That you'd eventually realize you needed me, that the outside world was dangerous, that you were safer in the cage I built than free in a world that would hurt you. He looked at me, and I saw genuine regret in his eyes. I was wrong. You didn't need saving, you needed support. There's a difference, and I'm only now learning it. I didn't know what to say. Couldn't process this version of my father. Vulnerable, apologetic, almost human. I'm opening a restaurant, I said finally, with your money apparently, but I'm running it. My way, my rules, and you don't get a say in how I do it. Agreed. And I want Rain. My father's eyebrow rose. You want him? I want him free, from your organization, from this life. If he wants to stay with me, I need to know he's choosing me, not following orders. I met my father's eyes. Can you let him go? The silence stretched for 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then my father smiled, a real smile, not the terrifying one. He asked me the same thing this morning, said he wanted out if it meant a chance with you. My heart stuttered. What did you tell him? I told him he'd served me faithfully for 20 years. Told him he'd protected the thing I valued most when I was too stupid to do it right. Told him, my father's voice softened, told him that love that comes with conditions isn't love. It's employment. And he deserved better than that. So he's free? He's free. My father stood, walked to the bar, poured himself another drink. But Catalina? He's going to drive you crazy. He's overprotective, possessive, has a temper that matches yours. And he's been in love with you since you were teenagers, which means he's got years of pent-up feelings he's going to dump at your feet. I can handle it, I said. I know you can. My father raised his glass. To new beginnings, even for old serpents who don't deserve them. I raised my glass to match his. To freedom, the kind that comes with choice, not chaos. We drank. The door opened, and Rain walked in. He'd showered, changed into clean clothes, and his hair was still damp. When he saw me looking at him, something shifted in his expression. Hope. Terrifying, vulnerable hope. Your father told me, he said, about what you asked. And? My heart was hammering. And I bought the building next door to your restaurant location. He pulled out a rolled set of blueprints. Figured you'd need somewhere to expand eventually. And I'd need somewhere to be close without being in your way. Unless what? I asked, standing. Rain crossed to me in 3 steps, stood close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. Unless you want me in your way, he said quietly. Unless you want me in your space, in your life, in your future. Not as your protector, not as your father's enforcer, just as me, Rain, the man who's loved you since before he understood what love meant. Behind us, my father quietly left the room, giving us privacy, giving me space to choose. I looked up at Rain, this man who'd watched me from shadows, who'd let me make mistakes rather than cage me, who'd waited a decade for me to be ready. I want you in my way, I said. I want you everywhere, but I need you to understand something first. What? He asked. I'm broken right now. I just escaped an abusive relationship that turned out to be a federal investigation. I just learned my father's been watching me for 10 years. I just committed multiple felonies to save people I've never met. I'm a mess, Rain, a complete disaster, and I need time to figure out who I am without someone telling me who to be. Okay, he said simply. That's it? Just okay? Rain smiled. Catalina, little cat, I've waited 10 years. I can wait 10 more if that's what you need. I can wait forever if it means you're choosing me because you want to, not because I wore you down or because you needed someone after Derek. He paused. I don't want to be your rebound. I want to be your choice. And that's when I knew. I kissed him. Not soft, not gentle. I kissed him like I was drowning and he was air. Kissed him like 10 years of waiting had built up into this single moment. Kissed him until we both forgot how to breathe. When we finally broke apart, Rain was staring at me like I'd just handed him the world. Was that a choice? He asked, slightly breathless. That was a down payment on a choice, I replied. The rest comes later, after I open my restaurant, after I figure out who I am, after I learn what it means to be loved by someone who doesn't want to own me. I can work with that, Rain said, and kissed me again. This time, it was soft. Promise, instead of passion. The kind of kiss that said we had time, that said there was no rush, that said he'd be there whenever I was ready for more. The kind of kiss I'd never had before. The door opened again, and my father cleared his throat. I hate to interrupt, but we have a situation. We broke apart, and I saw my father's expression. Serious. Focused. What kind of situation? Rain asked, immediately shifting into protection mode. Foster's lawyers are filing emergency motions, claiming evidence tampering, illegal search and seizure. They're saying Derek's testimony is inadmissible because it was obtained under duress. My father paused. They might be right. My stomach dropped. What does that mean? It means Foster might walk, and if he walks, the families are still in danger. I finished. My father nodded. We need more evidence. Official evidence. The kind that holds up in court. Not just the kind we stole from a server farm at gunpoint. Where do we get that? I asked. My father's smile was dangerous. We get it from the one person who documented everything Foster did, the person Foster trusted to be his insurance policy. He paused. We get it from Foster's personal assistant, and you, Catalina, are going to help me convince her to turn on her boss. I looked at Rain, then at my father, then at the city spread out below the penthouse windows, a city full of people who had no idea what happened in shadows to keep them safe. When do we start? I asked. Tomorrow, my father said. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow you become something you swore you'd never be. What's that? His smile widened. Part of the family business. 6 months ago, I would have run, would have refused, would have chosen anything except the world I'd spent 10 years escaping. But 6 months ago, I hadn't learned what I knew now, that sometimes the only way to be free is to choose your cage, to walk into the darkness with your eyes open instead of running blind. Okay, I said, let's do it. My father's expression softened. You really are my daughter. Unfortunately for both of us, I replied, but I was smiling when I said it, and for the first time in 10 years, I was standing in my father's world by choice, not because I had to, because I wanted to. The man who'd protected her from shadows was asking permission to stand in her light, and Catalina Reeves finally understood the difference between captivity and devotion. 6 months changed. Everything. Foster's personal assistant, a woman named Rebecca Chen who'd spent 8 years documenting her boss's crimes because she knew one day she'd need leverage, gave us everything. Bank records, kill orders, audio recordings of Foster authorizing eliminations, the kind of evidence that prosecutors dream about. Foster got life without parole. His entire kill squad was dismantled. 17 families who'd been marked for death went on living, never knowing how close they'd come to being acceptable losses. Derek disappeared into whatever new life my father had arranged. I didn't ask where, didn't want to know. Some chapters close, and you don't reread them. And me? I opened Midnight Rose on a Wednesday in October. The restaurant wasn't huge, 32 seats, intimate lighting, a menu that changed weekly based on what inspired me. My father had wanted to give me something massive, something that screamed Volkov money. But I'd refused. This was mine. Small. Genuine. Built on choice. Not empire. The critics came first week, called it the most exciting new restaurant in the city, said my pasta made them want to cry, said the atmosphere felt like being invited into a secret. They had no idea how right they were. Tonight was family dinner. Once a month, I closed the restaurant to everyone except the people who mattered. My father. His key people. Rain. And tonight, a surprise guest. I was in the kitchen when Rain appeared in the doorway, and my heart still did that stupid flutter thing it had been doing for 6 months. He wore dark jeans and a sweater that made his eyes look like smoke. His hair was shorter now, professional. He'd been consulting for a private security firm, the legitimate kind that protected CEOs and diplomats. No more enforcer work, no more blood. Your father just arrived, Rain said, and he brought someone. Who? I asked, plating the final appetizer. Your mother's sister, your aunt from Connecticut, the one you haven't seen since the funeral, I finished, and my hands stilled. What's she doing here? Apparently your father's been rebuilding bridges, reaching out to family he cut off when you were young. Rain stepped closer. She wants to meet you, the real you, not the 8-year-old at a funeral. My throat tightened. I don't know if I can. You can, Rain said quietly, but you don't have to. Say the word, and I'll tell her you're busy. Tell your father this was a bad idea. Protect you from uncomfortable conversations. I looked at him. Really looked at him. 6 months of this man being present without being possessive. 6 months of him showing me what love looked like when it wasn't wrapped in control. No, I said. I want to meet her. I paused. I want to know the parts of my mother I never got to. Rain smiled. Then let's go meet your family. The dining room was perfect. Candles flickered on every table. Jazz played softly through hidden speakers. And at the center table sat my father, looking uncomfortable in a way I'd never seen him. Next to him sat a woman in her 50s with my mother's eyes. Catalina, she said, standing. Her voice cracked. Oh my God, you look just like Elena. Something in my chest broke open. I crossed to her, and she pulled me into a hug that smelled like vanilla and memories I didn't know I had. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm sorry I disappeared after the funeral. Your father and I, we had words about how you were being raised, about the life he was bringing you into, and I said things I shouldn't have, and he cut me out, and I let him because I was angry. It's okay," I said, surprising myself by meaning it. "It's not. You needed family. You needed someone who could tell you about your mother, about who she was before—" She stopped, looked at my father. "Before everything." My father stood. "Angela's right. I kept you isolated. Kept you from knowing Elena's side of the family because I thought it made you safer. Thought it gave me more control." He paused. "I was wrong about a lot of things. I'm trying to be better." Rain's hand found the small of my back. Steady. Supportive. There without demanding attention. "Sit," I said to both of them. "Let me feed you. And, Angela, you can tell me about my mother over wine and pasta." Dinner was perfect. Not the food, though that was excellent, but the feeling. Angela told stories about my mother as a girl, about how she'd wanted to be a dancer, how she'd fallen in love with my father despite her family's warnings, how she'd died protecting me when a rival family had attacked our home when I was 6. I'd known the basics, but hearing it from Angela made it real in a way my father's clinical retelling never had. "She would have been so proud of you," Angela said, wiping tears. "Opening your own restaurant, making your own path, not letting your father's world define you." My father flinched at that, but didn't argue. After dinner, after Angela had left with promises to visit again next month, after my father's men had filtered out quietly, it was just Rain and me. We stood in the kitchen, cleaning up in comfortable silence. He washed, I dried. Domestic in a way that should have felt mundane but somehow felt intimate. "Your father talked to me earlier," Rain said, scrubbing a pan. "About what?" "About you, about us, about whether I was being respectful of your space and your healing." He paused. I told him yes. Told him I was letting you set the pace. Told him I'd wait as long as you needed. I set down the dish towel. "What if I don't want you to wait anymore?" Rain's hands stilled in the soapy water. "Catalina, 6 months ago, I was broken. I needed time to figure out who I was without someone else's agenda defining me." I stepped closer. "I know now. I'm a chef who makes food that makes people cry. I'm a daughter who's rebuilding a relationship with her father on her terms. I'm a woman who survived manipulation and abuse and federal investigations." I paused. "And I'm someone who's ready to stop being afraid of good things." Rain turned to face me, water dripping from his hands. "You're sure?" "I've watched you for 6 months. Watched you give me space when you wanted to be close. Watched you protect without possessing. Watched you love me from a distance even though it was killing you." I reached up, touching his face. "I'm sure." "I love you," Rain said, and his voice was rough. "I've loved you since you were 16 and snuck out to that art gallery because your father said you couldn't go. Loved you when you ran away at 18 because you needed freedom more than safety. Loved you through 2 years of watching that bastard hurt you. Loved you through every moment of these last 6 months when I wondered if you'd ever be ready for me." "I'm ready now," I whispered. Rain kissed me like he'd been holding back for 10 years, like every moment of restraint and patience and careful distance had been building to this. His hands cupped my face, gentle despite the intensity, and I felt the difference. This wasn't Derek's practice seduction, wasn't manipulation dressed as affection. This was real, messy, human, perfect. When we broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "I bought the building next door," Rain said again, like he had 6 months ago. "Was planning to use it for storage, for expansion, for—" "Move in with me," I interrupted. Rain blinked. "What?" "Not the building next door, not your apartment. Here, above the restaurant, there's space. It's small, but it's mine, and I want you in it." I paused. "I want you in my space and my life and my future. I want to wake up next to someone who sees me, who chooses me, who loves me without trying to own me." "You're sure?" he asked again. "Stop asking me that. I'm sure. I've been sure since you let me drive during that insane raid on a federal facility. Since you held me while I broke down in a warehouse. Since you've spent 6 months proving that love can be patient and present and real. Rain's smile was brilliant, transformative, the kind of smile I wanted to see every day for the rest of my life. Okay, he said. Let's do this. Okay? I laughed. That's your response to me asking you to move in? What do you want me to say? He pulled me closer. You're Catalina Volkov. You don't ask for things lightly. When you ask, you mean it. So yes, okay, I'll move in. I'll wake up next to you. I'll watch you build this empire one plate of pasta at a time. I'll love you without caging you. I kissed him quiet. Later, much later, we stood on the rooftop above the restaurant. The city spread out before us, lights twinkling like stars. Rain's arms wrapped around me from behind, and I leaned back against his chest. Your father's watching, Rain murmured. I looked down. Sure enough, across the street, partially hidden in shadows, stood my father. He saw me looking and raised a hand. I waved back. He's always going to watch, I said. That's who he is. Does it bother you? Rain asked. Not anymore. I turned in his arms. He's my father. He's always going to want to protect me. But I'm not his prisoner, and you're not his enforcer. We get to choose what this looks like. And what does it look like? Rain asked. I thought about that. About Derek's manipulation, about my father's control, about 10 years of running from the Volkov name only to realize I could wear it on my own terms. It looks like a restaurant where a mafia boss's daughter makes pasta so good it makes people weep, I said. It looks like a man who walked away from violence to build security systems. It looks like family dinners once a month where we pretend the past doesn't exist and focus on building something better. That sounds complicated, Rain observed. Everything worth having is complicated, I replied. Down below, my father turned and walked away, giving me privacy, giving me freedom, finally learning the difference between protection and prison. I love you, I said to Rain. Not because you saved me, not because you waited, but because you see me, all of me. The parts that ran away and the parts that came back, the parts that are still healing and the parts that are ready to fight. You see all of it, and you love all of it. Always have, Rain said. Always will. We stood there under city lights, building promises in the dark, and for the first time in my life, I wasn't running from anything. I was running toward everything, toward a future I chose, toward love that freed instead of trapped, toward a version of myself that was stronger for the breaking and braver for the healing. The restaurant lights below cast golden patterns on the street. Inside, my kitchen waited. My life waited. All of it built on choice, not circumstance. Come on, I said, taking Rain's hand. Let's go home. He smiled. Where's home? Wherever we decide it is, I replied. And we walked downstairs together, into the warmth and light and future we'd built from broken pieces and midnight promises. The door closed behind us, and somewhere in the darkness, Damien Volkov watched his daughter disappear into her own story, no longer his to write, but hers to tell. He smiled. Then he walked away, because that's what love looked like when you finally learned the difference between holding on and letting go. Thank you for sticking with us till the end. If you enjoyed the story, please like and subscribe, because your support means the world to us. See you next time.